Have you ever wanted to include your own unique artistic style in your realistic drawings? If you're not sure where to start, I'm going to show you how I drew this dog using pan pastels and pastel pencils. I'll explain my layering process and the reasoning behind my colour choices to create a result that is still realistic but also has those subtle, interesting colours and painterly effects to make it look more like artwork rather than just copying what you see in your reference photo. The paper that I'm using is Clairefontaine Pastel Mat, which is the only paper that I recommend for pastels because it allows you to add multiple layers of pastel, but also produces a smooth result, which is great for any details that you want to add. The ability to layer your colours is going to be really important when trying to create something realistic like this, because you need a few layers of pastel to be able to achieve the depth in the fur to make it look natural. So your paper choice is really important for this. I'm using pan pastels for the background and also the base layer because they blend really well. The colours are able to be mixed easily and they allow me to control how much pastel I'm laying down. One of the main reasons why a lot of my artwork has a painterly feel to it is because I tend to add a lot of subtle colours that you might not necessarily see in the original reference photo. You can see that I'm starting to add some pinks, purples, more vibrant reds and oranges in this layer. By adding these really vibrant colours in the base layer, they will subtly show through in the end result. The following layers that I add with pastel pencil are usually more natural colours, so they tend to dull down how bright and vibrant that first base layer is. I like to edit my reference photo so that I have a version that is a really high saturation level, because this can help bring out some of those hidden colours in the reference photo that you may not be able to see in the original. I use a lot of the colours that I see in this version in the base layer, but over the years I've gravitated towards certain colours that I like to use, and I will sometimes include colours like blues and purples that may not be in either of the reference photos, and this is just a personal preference, and it's one of those things that contribute to your own personal style. You may prefer artwork that looks a little warmer, so you might like to add more reds and yellows to your work. It's something that will come naturally over time once you've created a few pieces of artwork, and you've had a little bit of time to play around with colour combinations and what you personally like the look of. But doing these higher saturation versions of the reference photo can really help you if you don't know where to start with adding in these subtle colours. Another artistic choice that I made was to make the background more of a blue colour, because blue and orange are opposite each other on the colour wheel, making them complementary colours, so they go really nicely together on the same piece. I'm making sure to only add a light layer of pan pastels in the base layer because I don't want to fill up the tooth of the paper too quickly. And when I refer to the tooth of the paper, I'm talking about the little grooves in the paper. So if you think about them as little hills and valleys, when the pastel comes across the paper, it catches on the top of the hills and then deposits the pigments into the valleys. When you add a lot of pastel, it will fill up those valleys so they become level with the hills, creating a smooth surface. This means that your pastel won't have anything to grip onto anymore, which will stop you from being able to add more layers on top. The normal soft pastel sticks tend to add a lot of pastel to the paper very quickly, so I prefer using pan pastels for my base layer for this reason. I usually blend out my first layer with a cotton tip as well because it helps to push the pastel into the tooth of the paper, which will allow for more layers of pastel on top. It also helps to blend any of the excess dust that might be laying on your piece, and it smooths out the colours a little bit more as well. You don't need to push too hard with the cotton tip. We really don't want to damage the paper. It's more of a light to medium pressure. And you can see that even after I've finished the base layer with the pan pastels, there is still a little bit of the original paper colour showing through that pastel. And that's exactly what you want, because that means there will be enough tooth left in the paper to add multiple layers of pastel pencil on top. Are you struggling to make your artwork look more realistic? Or are you confused about which supplies to buy, which colours to use, and how to start your drawing? After sharing hundreds of my art tutorials, I've learned that most people go through the same struggles and have the same questions when it comes to learning how to draw realistically. And that is why I have created these tutorials, so you don't have to go through valuable years of trial and error and research and frustration. Join me and hundreds of other students just like you. Not only will you get access to a library of tutorials in a range of different mediums like pastels, coloured pencils, charcoal, watercolour and graphite, my tutorials are real-time and full length, so they don't skip over any important sections or speed up any parts of the process. And they are fully narrated with voiceover instructions that explain exactly what I'm doing and why I'm making these choices, so you really can follow along every step of the way. Each tutorial comes with a full supply list, including the names of the colours I'm using, as well as any reference photos that you might need, including a traceable outline. You will also have access to beginner tutorials, where I show you all the basic things you need to know to get started. You'll learn everything from choosing and editing your reference photos to creating your initial outline. Why not give it a go and join me and hundreds of other students just like you so you can grow and develop your drawing and painting skills and take your art to the next level. Another technique that I love using with my pastel work is glazing. And if you don't know what that term is, it basically means layering a transparent or semi-transparent colour over the top of the previous layers to tint the colour that's underneath without covering it up completely. So this is a technique that a lot of oil painters and watercolour artists use, but you can also apply it to pastels as well. So I'm basically going over the entire dog using just a white pencil to create some of the fur texture. And then I'm going to glaze colours over the top of this to subtly tint the white. I find this is easier than trying to switch between different pastel pencils on different areas of the dog. I can just go over all of the mid-tone and lighter areas with the white pencil to create that texture without worrying about colour, and then I can adjust the colours afterwards. So I'm not going to add white in the darkest shadows though, because I don't want it to be too light in those areas. And I'm now doing the same thing with a mid-tone red-brown colour, and I'm starting to create some of the texture in the fur in those areas that are a little bit darker. So this is where I'm starting to do the actual glazing. So I'm picking out colours from the reference photo and gently shading over the top of those areas to add a little bit of colour to that white fur texture. And I'm just remembering not to completely cover up that layer of the white, I'm just gently glazing the colour over the top. I usually create a version of my reference photo where I add some digital colour swatches to make it easier to see what kinds of colours are in different areas of the photo. This is really helpful for the highlights and shadows because sometimes your brain can only see black or grey in the shadows and white in the highlights, and that's generally not the case. There are usually subtle colours in those shadows and highlights that might be easier to see if you create these digital colour swatches as well. All that being said, your colour choices are really not that important. Your values are what's important. My artwork doesn't really have the same colours as the original reference photo does, and that's completely fine as long as you choose a colour that is not too dark or too light in comparison to the area of the reference photo. I could paint a purple elephant and it's going to look realistic as long as my values and proportions are correct. He might just look like he's under a weird purple light, but it's still going to look realistic. And like I was talking about earlier, after a while you'll work out which colours you prefer using and start to see more of those hidden colours in your reference photos so that you can add those colours to your artwork. I usually like to gently blend out my second layer as well. And I don't want to blend away all of the pencil strokes because we want to have that texture there to help create that realistic fur look. But if you gently come across with your cotton tip, you can blend any areas that may look a little bit harsh in your opinion. In the next couple of layers, I will be building up the colours and values to create more depth in the fur. To do this, I'm looking at my reference photo and comparing it to my artwork. And I'm choosing an area of the reference photo where I see a colour that stands out to me that I haven't already added to my artwork. For example, I noticed a darker red-brown colour in some of the shadows, especially near the ear at the top. So I started with that pencil and added the colour where I saw it first. And then while I have that colour in my hand, I'm going to add that colour anywhere else that I see it on the reference photo. And then I just choose another area where I can see a colour that I need to add and then apply it anywhere else I can see that colour as well. Something that I like to do to see if my values are on the right track is to take a photo of my artwork, turn it into black and white, and then compare it side by side with a black and white version of the reference photo. This way you can kind of use it as like a spot the difference to see if your dark areas are as dark as the reference photo and if your light areas are as light as the reference photo. You can do this halfway through or towards the end where you think you're nearly finished, but you just want to make sure that your values are correct. And I find this really helpful for subjects that are more difficult for me, like human portraits, for example. Another element of realistic drawing that I believe is just as important as values is proportions. Starting with an accurate outline is essential, and it's especially important if you're using a lot of subtle colours that aren't necessarily obvious in your reference photo. Sometimes if your proportions are not accurate, the addition of those extra colours in your work may make it look even less realistic as well. So there are a lot of ways you can get an accurate outline. The first is to use a projector, so you can just project your reference photo onto your drawing surface and then trace around it. Or you could use something like the transfer method, where you can just print out your reference photo, turn it over, and then rub some pan pastel on the back of the reference photo. Then just flip it back over on top of your drawing surface and trace around the outline so that the pastel will imprint onto your drawing surface. You can also use things like the grid method. So just make sure you take your time to get the lines accurate this way. If you do the grid method though, I'd recommend doing it on a separate piece of cheaper paper or just like printer paper, and then transferring that outline onto your drawing surface with something like the transfer method. Because if you try to draw the grid method onto a paper like Pastel Mat, it's very hard to erase all of the lines, and you can damage your paper in the process as well. Something else that I think is important for a more painterly result that shows a bit more of your own personal style is to not include every detail that you see in your reference photo. I like to include only as much detail as necessary so that when you stand back and look at your artwork from a normal viewing distance, the texture in that area looks correct, but when you get a bit closer, you can still see the pencil marks and different colours, and it doesn't just look like a copy of a photo. A really good example of this is some of the realistic oil paintings that you can find in museums and art galleries, where if you stand at a normal viewing distance, a couple of meters back for example, it looks really realistic and detailed, but when you get close, all you can see is brush strokes and colours, and there really isn't as much detail as you thought there was. Your eyes are just filling in the gaps when you stand further away. It's kind of like an illusion. And one of the reasons this technique works is because the values and the proportions are correct. If they weren't correct, it doesn't matter how much detail you add and how accurate your colour choices are, it's not going to look realistic if your proportions and your values aren't correct. So I like to stand back every now and then or take a photo on my phone so that the image is a lot smaller and just see if the artwork looks realistic from a distance. And if I can't see the detail that I'm adding, then that detail doesn't necessarily need to be there. This is a great way to make your artwork look more painterly but still realistic. Creating vibrant base layers in pan pastels can take a little bit of practice, and sometimes it's hard to know what colours to use and where to start, so I created this tutorial to show you exactly how to create a base layer with pan pastels. So click on that and I'll see you over there.